We begin this week's virtual safari with a number of very short but still engaging and enjoyable sightings. Firstly, we join the Three Rivers female and her daughter. It's always special to see a mother and daughter moving alongside each other through some of the thicker vegetation to start off with, and then popping out into a clearing. Before you know it, they had disappeared off and we weren't able to follow them any further. But it was just a little heartwarming moment knowing that this young female is thriving and the Three Rivers female is doing a sterling job raising her. Later on, after just leaving camp in the afternoon game drive, we bumped into a small herd of elephants walking across the Londolozi airstrip. So we had a special moment as they decided to walk straight up towards our vehicle, pretty much almost brushing past the side of it before they then disappeared off into the distance and we could carry on with our game drive. Which led us down into the southeastern parts of the reserve, and these flies are driving me nuts. And as we were driving down there, we could see this pretty impressive rainbow starting to form. And we came around a corner to find a number of different zebra and wildebeest all standing out in the open. So we had a very brief shot of them all there with this rainbow in the background. And then one of the Nzenga males was called in on the radio, very close by to where we were. So we shot down there to then have him getting up and walking, only for a matter of probably 10 or 12 paces, right in front of the rainbow before settling down. So that was a very special little scene to be part of. Then to spice things up, a couple mornings later we found ourselves in the north where a pack of wild dogs, the Toulon pack, had been found, and they were running across Impala crest. We had them running through the open right past Pat's vehicle. But just following wild dogs is electric, it's chaotic, it's filled with energy because you never really know what's going to happen. And although this was a very brief sighting with them, it was still a special one, just watching them move around and realizing just how much distance they can cover in such a short space of time. The scent of something. Since we're up in the north, we knew that the Nkuhuma pride had been found feeding on a huge male giraffe carcass. Now we have absolutely no idea how this giraffe died, whether these lions killed it or whether it was killed off by some other natural cause or in a fight, a necking fight, a dominance fight between another male giraffe and this one. But we headed across there and saw two lionesses, initially pretty close to the carcass. They then got up and had a little playful spat amongst each other before they then started feeding. And this carcass was a couple days old, so the stench was ripe, and we didn't hang around for too much longer after they started feeding because it was a little bit difficult to handle. Right, now that we're done with all of the very brief sightings, we then headed across to where the Ximungwe female and her cub had been found, and they had a young kudu carcass hoisted up into a marula tree. So as we drove in there, golden light illuminating the grass, we saw a brief little glimpse of some spots disappearing as they were walking away from where the carcass was. As we got our vehicle in there, we were then greeted by a very special, playful moment between the cub and the mother. Soon the cub then started heading back towards where the carcass was hoisted, and before we knew it he had climbed up into the tree and was feeding. Mother settled down in the grass and we couldn't really see much of her, but we watched the cub feeding for quite some time before we eventually let them be and headed back towards camp. We then returned the following morning to see what had evolved around the scene. We were greeted by the cub having climbed all the way up to some of the tip-top branches of the marula tree, and he was just testing out his balance, full of confidence, playing around in the tree, just exploring. The cub came back along the branch and climbed up to where the carcass was, and at this point it was draped over a branch but hanging very precariously and was swaying with every movement of the cub in the tree. Mother was watching very curiously from her perch, intrigued as to what might unfold. It was only a matter of time before that carcass was likely to fall out of the tree. The carcass tumbled out of the tree. Before we could even blink, the mother was up on her feet, racing down out of the tree to go and retrieve the carcass. She grabbed hold of the carcass just as a hyena came running in, but she managed to jump back into the tree, keeping it safe away from the hyena. Within moments, she had then dragged it back up to one of the big, large horizontal branches and could then place it down there very carefully, ensuring that it wouldn't fall out of the tree again. The hyena, realizing it wasn't going to get much, sniffed around for a short while and then marched off into the distance. In this whole flurry, we noticed that the cub had also descended the tree and probably had run off into some of the thicker vegetation nearby, evading the hyena that had come charging in. And so we didn't see the cub again. But now the mother was back up in the tree with the carcass, and she casually just groomed herself before then settling down on a branch to rest. It was only a while later that she then got up and came back across to the carcass to begin feeding. So after watching her feasting away for quite some time, we then decided to let her be. After a morning filled with excitement and exhilaration, the tender moments between a mother and cub, and just watching how proficient the Ximungwe female is and how effectively she managed to keep her carcass safe away from the hyenas, we left pretty thrilled and happy with ourselves. And so I hope you've enjoyed this virtual safari. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Drop a comment below, like this video, and we'll see you back here again for next week's virtual safari. Bye for now.